this sceptred isle, this earth of majesty, this jewel set in a silver sea. Ask not for whom the bell tolls. Cry God for Harry, England, and St. George! I've gone mad. She moving strange today. I don't like her. Ha! There you are then, young Jim.
Telescope. Brought to you by General Motors of Canada, makers of Canada's most popular cars and trucks, and Frigidaire appliances.
We appear to be safe from interruption for a moment, but perhaps only long enough for me to tell you that our guest on tonight's Telescope is living proof that one man's clown is another man's Hamlet. Merry and melancholy by turns, his deadpan can only be revived with the oxygen of laughter. He's been variously described as a symbol of the frustrated citizen, perpetually just half a note out of tune with the times, and as a little man with a big chip, wearing his inadequacies like medals on his chest, and as the world's foremost impersonator of an alarm clock. He's a veteran of Britain's music halls, the RAF, and the now forever closed Windmill Theatre of London. Here in Canada, we know him from both radio and television. The one, and let us be thankful, the only, Mr. Tony Hancock.
Hancock's off out.
Who may or may not be trusted to remain quiet throughout the following message.
This is the Royal Opera House, Covent Garden. When I first came here, I was torn between opera and ballet. But in the end, I decided to go for the lot. How we danced, Tito Gobbi and I. And when Margot Fontaine, or of course Marge to me, sang with me, wanting you, it has never been equaled. However, in the words of Omar Khayyam, 'tis all a checkerboard of nights and days where destiny with men and people play. Isn't it marvelous? 1964, he's stone dead and still writing. I can't get over that. Still, you can't whack these Persians for markets and carpets. Very good, I think. And the reason for this is a heritage which you, the public, are the soul of the theatre. You are the linchpin, the fulcrum. It's a word, it's a word.
This is London's Palladium, where Tony Hancock made his command performance for threepence.
I started when I was 17. I did one broadcast for the BBC, and I got a return date in 10 years' time. So it must have meant I really obviously made a big impact, you know. I started by going into bars when I was 17, picking up any jokes that anybody laughed at and doing them. So I eventually ended up with the filthiest act you've ever heard and cleared a church hall in Bournemouth in about 10 minutes, I would say. And the parson said to me at the end, "I know your father and mother. I'm glad they weren't here tonight because I'm sure they would have been as disgusted with this performance as I was. So at least it stopped me working dirty material, bad material."
This is London's lately lamented Windmill Theatre, now finally closed after 32 years of continuous performances.
The Windmill is, as a matter of fact, my mother took me there once.
for the first time when I was about 7. And she said, this will be a nice place, because we were going to get the train back to this place, Bournemouth. And she said, I think the times of the cinema seem to be difficult. This will be a nice place, we'll go in here. And it's 6 shows a day. And it's strip, you know, not strip really, but it's a bit, it's strictly for the businessman, should we say, in my opinion. And she got in there and saw this, and she stuck me under the seat. And later, when I worked there, as I say, 6 shows a day, £15 a week.
Back to Tony Hancock, in and out of character, on and off stage, in just a moment. Donald Zeck, an old acquaintance of Tony Hancock, cornered the comedian for Telescope in London's Ritz Hotel.
I have to get to the theatre very early, because I can't. Other people do it differently, but this is my way. I have to get there at least 3/4 of an hour before, and I sniff, and I dress, and I wait, and I stamp, and I hit my head against the wall.
What, actually bang your head against the wall?
Sure. And I do this because it relaxes me, so that when you go on to the public, you are apparently relaxed.
But you're not, in fact. You're exhausted.
Well, no, you're not exhausted, because that's easy. When it starts, the beautiful snowball starts.
Oh, I see.
And it comes back to you like that. There's no exhaustion there. You don't feel tired after a show, ever. You feel tired when you go to a theatre at about 5:30 or something.
But that puts an awful premium on the art of being funny. It takes a lot out of you, I take it.
Well, it does, but on the other hand, you see, this is really quite honest. You get so much back. Not every night, because sometimes they don't want to know. But most of the time, when it starts to fly, you know, and you start to go, they come with you, and you go with them.
But what sort of emotions do you go through, say, 25 minutes before the cameras start rolling?
Same thing, but before that.
Really?
Yes, before that. Oh, yes. The workout, I always do a workout in a television studio when everybody else is having a drink over in the pub. I'm in the studio and moving on the marks again, just to sort of remind myself, because when we finished up on the last series, we had approximately 275 shots in each show. So this, and each one, you know, you're using 5 cameras, so you've really got to know what you're doing.
But is it fear? Is it a feeling,
yes,
I've got to be funny? Or I mustn't...
No, the thing is, with television particularly, I know that it's under-rehearsed, because nobody can rehearse a television show, in my opinion, in 5 days.
Is there, about you, such a dedication to perfection? Are you so the supreme perfectionist that you're not pouring more of your heart, soul, and in fact, your entire chemistry into playing a role which ought not to require that amount of dedication?
Well, I'm afraid I've no choice, have I?
But then at the end of a series, or at the end of a show, you are, in fact, absolutely bushed. You're out.
No, I'm not. I'm high.
Really?
I'm bushed at about 5:30 when I go into a theatre.
And what do you do then, when you're really high? What, I mean, are you then are you 10 feet tall, you're walking on air, or what?
Well, it depends how it went.
And you would know, of course, immediately.
Oh, sure. There's no doubt about that.
Tell me about the audiences. They do exert on some people an absolute terror. In fact, some artists I've talked to talk about loathing the audience for the suffering that they have to endure as a result of them.
Well, I think then they haven't been very successful. Because you can't loathe them, you see. And this I will say absolutely. There is no question of this. You cannot... I believe in them. I'm for them. Because we are in a position to sway them up to a point, I suppose. And I don't, I sometimes come off, and for half an hour I might say, what a lot of they were, you know. But I would, after half an hour, I think perhaps the performance wasn't very good.
Sure, I see that.
See what I mean? This is the way you must look at it, and this is the honest way.
Sure.
But you can always blame the audience. I mean, I know plenty of alleged comedians here who will always blame them, but never think that it could possibly be the fault of themselves at all.
How much are you affected by this when it happens?
Do you know, it gives me the needle.
Oh, is that all?
It makes me angry.
And what do you do then?
I fight.
Well, who?
Anybody who's around. I don't mean physically striking a blow, but if anybody wants to criticize and tear it apart.
You don't like it?
No, but as I say it, you know, it just makes me fight. It doesn't, it just makes me think, all right, you want to see? Watch.
Let's take a series that was the biggest thing on television in this country, the series you did with Sid James.
Yes.
When you were Anthony Aloysius Hancock. When you were sitting on what to everybody was the finest show on television, you suddenly killed it. Now, why?
Well, because I was so fond of it that I wanted to keep it in a position, in other words, to leave it at the top. Because I knew the boys were, well, I don't say I know, but I felt that the boys were getting written out on it. It's a very narrow situation, really.
I don't agree with you about that.
Well, all right, you can go on. But let me say this. But the idea was this. I was so fond of it, and it was a series that we took so much trouble over and everything. And I never wanted anybody to say, oh, it's the same old thing again, you know, and they're likely to do that now because they're getting an awful lot of...
I know you pretty well, but I don't think all that well. And I'm trying to get some idea of the personality and the chemistry that could produce the immensely observant humor that you managed to produce in your character.
Well, all right. I can only explain it like this, that one watches stupidities of other people, but more, you must watch your own. When people say, he's the little man working against bureaucracy, this is nonsense. But people talk to me like this, and I don't listen, I just fall asleep or forget about it. And I look at other people, they've all got problems, what's the difference? There's no doubt about it, as I say, that there is, when you are working, although often it is exciting, it still extracts quite a lot from you.
Next week, Telescope greets you on Christmas Day with a story as Canadian as the St. Lawrence River, on whose icebound waters our winter's tale unfolds. The time is Christmas Eve, a pilgrim's progress between a mainland town and an island 8 long, slow, frozen miles away. The object, to be home by Christmas. Until next week, Fletcher Markle with season's greetings from Telescope.
Yes, I could live with that. It's big, but I think as a replacement for the flying ducks on the wall, and I'm sure the wife would like it because she has great taste about art. Yes, I like that. I wonder why he didn't fill in the other square.
Telescope has been brought to you by General Motors of Canada, makers of Canada's most popular cars and trucks, and Frigidaire appliances.